one with 50 Cent. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like Jim.
Nah, I don't want to do nothing with that sucker. You heard? Leave him out of the conversation.
Jay did the remix. It was the biggest alley-oop he could do for me. I understood a lot about music, and at that time, people were looking at the wrong way, and I was looking at the right way.
Like he was,
who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's like, no one's top 10 list, maybe not even his.
And all that bullshit. I be seeing Jimmy talking about, we Gucci boo boo. He in the Gucci store. Talking about, we Gucci boo boo. The Black King was going up. Jimmy like, Marita Moneda.
50 Cent just lit up Jim Jones again. This time, it wasn't about Dipset or old beef, it was about Nas. Jim tried to come for one of the greatest, and 50 wasn't having it for a second. Not only did he check him publicly, but he dropped rare, never-before-seen footage showing how Jim flipped his loyalty in real time, going from calling Jay Z soft to begging for a Roc Nation deal like nothing ever happened. The receipts were undeniable, and the way 50 presented it? Cold, calculated, and disrespectful in the best way. This one's messy, and the internet is eating it up, because when 50 decides to press play on a grudge, somebody's reputation's not walking away clean. Interview, 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 interview. Now, if you really know 50 Cent, you know he's never been cool with Jim Jones or Jay Z. That tension goes way back. But Nas, that's different. 50 actually respects Nas. He sees him as a real lyricist, one of the few who earned their stripes for real. So when Jim started talking reckless, claiming he's better than Nas, even saying he's the reason Nas went viral again, 50 wasn't about to sit back quiet. That kind of talk? It hit a nerve.
If I told you I was in the Roc Nation office, how would you feel about that? Huh? You think I was lying? That's clear enough for you?
But see, this situation ain't just about disrespecting Nas. It's about exposing who Jim Jones really is. 50 took this moment to flip the table and drag out Jim's entire record of switching sides. He pulled the receipts, the interviews, the shade, all of it. Because to 50, Jim's the type who rides with whoever's hot, then flips the second it benefits him. No loyalty, no backbone. And 50's not holding back. He's putting it all out there, frame by frame. Let's get into the facts. Jim spent years throwing shots at Jay Z, clowning him in interviews, calling him out like he wasn't a legend, and now, suddenly, he's praising him. Yeah, 50's got something to say about that. He even slapped one of Jay Z's own execs back in the day. Yeah, it got that wild. Jim was out here calling Jay soft, like it was part of his job description. Every interview, every mic, he made sure to get a jab in. But when the deals dried up and the checks stopped rolling, suddenly the tone changed. Out of nowhere, Jay Z was a genius, a leader, and Jim was begging for a Roc Nation contract like the past never happened. And that right there? That's exactly the kind of move 50 loves to expose. Now, with Jim taking shots at Nas, 50 used the moment perfectly, reminding everyone just how fast Jim flips when it benefits him. He painted him as a man with no code, no backbone, and zero respect for the culture he pretends to represent. 50 didn't even have to exaggerate. The receipts spoke for themselves. But here's the twist. It backfired on Jim badly. His Nas slander didn't just spark a Twitter argument. It blew the doors wide open. Fans, rappers, even old collaborators started digging up footage, interviews, and quotes, all of it exposing just how deep Jim's pattern of switching sides really runs. It gave people like 50 Cent the perfect excuse to start digging, and when 50 digs, he doesn't stop until everything comes out. The moment Jim started talking wild about Nas, 50 saw an open lane and hit the gas. He went straight through Jim's history, pulling out interviews, videos, and every shady move he ever made. Nothing was off limits.
Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all, ever.
See, 50 never misses a chance to call out fake energy in the industry. And now that Jim basically put himself in the spotlight by disrespecting Nas, 50 jumped in and called him exactly what he thinks he is. Jay Z's lapdog. No filters, no metaphors, just smoke. 50 said straight up that Jim's entire rap persona is built on jumping into other people's beefs, chasing headlines, and then running back for help when the hype dies down. And if that wasn't bad enough, Jim decided to double down on the nonsense. During a segment with Shannon Sharpe, Jim got loud again, claiming he's better than Nas and could run circles around him in the booth. The internet went crazy.
People shouldn't be able to say your names until they done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like Jim Jones, who is Jim?
That one statement made half the rap world stop and stare. Rappers, fans, and even hip-hop legends started side-eyeing him like, is he serious right now? But instead of walking it back, Jim kept pushing the narrative, doubling down, and even bragging that he's the one who made Nas relevant again. That was the moment 50 knew he had him, because the more Jim talked, the easier it was to expose him. Like Nas ever stopped being a factor, let's be real.
Than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
You said that.
But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciate him. He had a little bit of run. But Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people.
But lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
Y'all
but look how
ain't
you
happy with
dress.
Nas.
Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. Listen,
I can be in the church house. You can't F with Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, y'all know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas.
Bro,
you're not seeing Nas, bro. Let's be real.
You got a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than Nas.
It don't matter.
Look at you.
Hey,
I will run circles around
that.
Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right now. Right now, I will run Saturn around Nas right now rapping. Everybody.
And since Jim decided to drag Jay Z into the conversation too, you already knew 50 Cent wasn't going to let that slide. The second Jim's name and Jay's name hit the same sentence, 50 jumped in, locked, loaded, and ready to remind everyone of Jim's real history with the man he's now praising. 1 minute, Jim was dissing Jay, calling him soft and washed. The next minute, he's chasing Roc Nation deals, smiling for pictures and calling Jay a legend. That kind of flip-flop? 50 lives for it. And the way he handled it this time was vintage 50. Cold, hilarious, and perfectly timed. He went straight for the jugular, posting a throwback clip of Jim Jones at Roc Nation headquarters, cheesing like a fanboy, trying to get backstage passes and snapping photos like he'd just met his idol. Jim looked like a kid at Disneyland, all smiles, all hype. And 50 couldn't resist twisting the knife with his caption.
He's never been talked about like this ever in his life.
Now, has Nas reached out to you?
You did. The last time he was in some this when people were comparing is when him and Jay was beating on him.
Under the video, 50 dropped one of his signature sarcastic gems, writing, "Someone asked me if I have more enemies than friends. I thought about it and said, yes, poor me. I'm suffering from success, LOL. Classic 50. Funny, sharp, and deadly with the timing. It wasn't just trolling, it was surgical pettiness. Sure, some folks laughed it off, saying 50 was just doing what 50 does, stirring the pot. But for the people who actually know the history between Jim and Jay Z, that post hit way deeper. Because this whole feud isn't really about Jim dissing Nas. It's about a man who's been disloyal for years. A man who keeps switching sides the second it benefits him. And 50 just made sure the world didn't forget it. Flipping sides and switching energy. Jim Jones has made it an art form. He'll start a beef 1 month, then be begging for a feature the next. But to understand how deep this runs, you gotta rewind the tape all the way back to the beginning of the tension. For over 13 years, Jim Jones made it his mission to disrespect Jay Z publicly. We're talking full-on diss tracks, radio shade, sneak disses, and even real-life street altercations. He couldn't go a year without throwing dirt on Hov's name. But when the buzz faded and the hits slowed down, suddenly the tune changed. Jim did a full 180. Now Jay Z was a legend, a mentor, the man he wanted to work with. That's the switch up 50 Cent is highlighting right now, showing everyone exactly who Jim really is. A man with no spine in this game. So where did all this drama start? Let's rewind. Back in 2002, Cameron and Jim Jones were brought into Rockefeller Records by Dame Dash. Jim even said publicly that Cam was promised a vice president title at the label. Cam hyped it up in the source, saying, "I don't even know if I'm going to take the role as of yet. Me and Dame are still talking about it, but I mean, I can have it. It's mine." But here's where the tension really sparked. Jay Z never confirmed that deal. He downplayed the whole thing, telling the source, "That's not taking effect as of yet. I think the talk is a little premature right now." Boom! Instant friction. The cracks started showing right there. Jay wasn't backing the move, and Dame was pushing Cam into a leadership spot Jay didn't co-sign. The energy in the Rock started shifting fast. Then things got even messier. Jay recorded a remix to Cam'ron and Jules Santana's hit Oh Boy, but instead of keeping it playful, he used his verse to sneak in a diss toward Nas. Cam and Jim weren't feeling it. They flat out refused to release the version, and Cam even deleted Jay's entire verse from the track. That moment right there marked the start of something bigger, the quiet divide inside Rockefeller that would soon turn into open war, and 50's dragging all of it back into the spotlight, reminding everyone that Jim's loyalty has always been for sale. Later, Cam'ron made it clear why he refused to drop that version, saying, "I'm not letting Jay use our song to send shots at Nas. That's not what we do."
If I told you I was in the Rock Nation office, how would you feel about that? Huh? You think I was lying? That's clear enough for you? Talk to me. Let me know your sentiments. You heard?
And that moment right there set the tone for everything that followed. From that day on, Cam and Jim both felt like Jay Z didn't respect them, not as artists, not as men, and definitely not as part of the Rock. The tension that had been brewing behind the scenes finally started spilling out in public.
A little something for you in the studio. Then he has something to Oh Boy.
This is Oh Boy's already #1?
Yeah, it's popping.
All right.
Yeah, I listened to it and I was like, erase that.
From there, Jim Jones went on a full-blown campaign, throwing slick shots at Jay every chance he got. Radio interviews, DVD clips, magazine quotes. He kept painting Jay as some corporate suit who'd lost touch with the streets. Jim built an entire narrative that Jay was disconnected, too polished, and out of step with the reality that made hip-hop roar in the first place.
First of all, let's get right to it. There seems to be some drama. You and The Rock, Jay Z, you try to diss. You did diss him.
I just nobody.
You dissed him.
I dissed Michael Jordan. Oh man, we just there's no drama, man.
No, we're gonna get to that.
Shouts to Dame Dash, who started Rockefeller Records. If y'all don't know, he's responsible for Rockefeller getting off the floor that started in Harlem. You know what I'm talking about?
He pushed that story hard, framing Dipset as the real street movement, while Jay was the buttoned-up businessman in the office. For Jim, Dipset represented chaos, flash, and Harlem energy, everything Jay supposedly wasn't. He told everyone the streets had moved on from Jay Z and crowned Dipset as the new voice of the people. At first, Jay didn't even bite. He ignored the noise, stayed focused on building empires and collecting checks. But that silence, it only made Jim louder. Jay Z played the silent game for years, cool, calm, and unbothered. He didn't clap back in interviews or sneak disses. He let the money, deals, and legacy do all the talking. But while Jay stayed silent, Jim Jones kept the pressure on, dragging his name, throwing shade, and trying to prove that Dipset was running the streets while Jay was out of touch. Fast forward a few years, and suddenly we see that clip of Jim grinning ear to ear inside Rock Nation headquarters, the very same Jay Z empire he once trashed. That's the irony 50 Cent couldn't resist pointing out. The same man who used to clown Jay in public was now smiling for selfies in his office, trying to sign a deal. That's why 50 had to drop the receipts. He wasn't just trolling this time. He was exposing hypocrisy in high definition. His message was sharp and direct. Don't talk down on legends when your own track record is this messy. And 50 wasn't wrong. Everyone in the game already knew there was long-standing friction inside Rockefeller back in the early 2000s. But fast forward to 2006, and Jim finally had his breakout solo moment. His hit, We Fly High, Ballin', exploded. The song dominated radio, clubs, and sports arenas nationwide. For the first time, Jim wasn't just Cam's hype man. He was a solo star. But success has a funny way of bringing the past back around, and that's when Jay Z finally made his move. Instead of ignoring Jim's rise, Jay flipped the entire narrative by jumping on Jim's own beat and remixing We Fly High into his version, Brooklyn High. It was calm, clever, and surgical. Jay didn't need to yell. He just reminded everyone exactly who set the standard. And don't get it twisted, that move wasn't just a remix, it was a statement. Jay Z was showing the world that no matter how loud Jim got, the throne still belonged to him. It wasn't a cosign, it was a diss.
I ain't do that. You already know this that pimp. You on there, brother. Hold on, that's on this. See, middleman? Give me that. I'm on there. Joan. Ha-ha. Capo. Burning the streets up. Y'all know what it is, man. Purple Haze coming out. My dude Cam album coming out. Joel Santana, he's slated for September. You know what they call me, Geronimo Pratt. Dipset, the new Black Panther. I want no problems. I promise.
When Jay Z jumped on We Fly High and turned it into Brooklyn High, he wasn't giving props. He was sending a message. Every bar, every ad-lib, every delivery was a jab. Jay mocked Jim's flow, his voice, even the way he shouted, "Ballin'!" It was slick, cold, and perfectly calculated. The kind of icy move only Hov could pull off. Classic ha energy, smooth but sharp enough to cut. Of course, Jim Jones wasn't going to take that lying down. He came right back with a remix called Beef Mix, flipping the same beat and firing direct shots at Jay. He called him old, corporate, and out of touch, painting Jay as a washed-up legend who had lost his connection to the streets. What started as a lyrical exchange turned into something much darker, because this beef didn't stay on wax. It spilled straight into the real world. In 2008, Jim was caught on security footage throwing hands inside a Louis Vuitton store. When the footage hit the media, everyone thought it was just another wild moment, until the name of the victim came out. The man Jim assaulted turned out to be Lenny Santiago, one of Jay-Z's closest friends and a longtime A&R executive at Roc Nation. That changed everything. Jim was arrested and later pled guilty to misdemeanor assault.
Brooklyn get tape up, yo big things, we check around, they all wall game, it's over for you lames, give me back your chain, it's over for you tanks.
Yeah, I'm sitting clean with the bottom kitted. I hopped out saggy jeans in my rock listen. But I spent about 8 grand, mommy on stage, doing the rain dance.
Jay never spoke publicly about it. No tweets, no interviews, no diss records. But behind the scenes, the energy completely shifted. This wasn't rap anymore. This was personal. A few months later, Jay gave an interview to XXL magazine talking about the state of hip-hop, and in classic Jay fashion, he delivered a jab without ever saying a name. He said, Jim Jones, for example, and I don't mean this personally because we never saw eye to eye, but he made nah, 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 nah. What's the difference between that and Soulja Boy's Smiley Face? It's all the same. It could have been called Smiley Face 2. That was surgical shade. No yelling, no name-calling. Just cold dismissal. And that hit harder than any diss track could have. Jay basically erased Jim's credibility with a single quote. From that point on, the beef cooled into a cold war. No official tracks, no direct mentions, but everyone in the industry knew it was still simmering. Between 2010 and 2015, both camps kept their distance, but the tension never disappeared. It was just waiting for the next spark. For a few years, there were no direct shots, just quiet tension. The kind of uneasy silence where everybody knows the history, but no one says it out loud. Then in 2015, Dipset tried to turn the clock back and reignite the flame. Cameron and Jim Jones dropped a freestyle over Diddy's Victory beat, and they went all in. They mocked Roc Nation's clean-cut image, taking aim at the label's brunch vibes and calling everyone their industry puppets. They even took slick shots at Beyoncé. Cam rapped, "Having money don't make you a real one. You step on the court, you gon' play my game. Just take Shorty's advice and say my name." It was bold, messy, and very Harlem. But the crazy part, Jay Z didn't even blink. By that point, Jay was operating on a completely different level. A billionaire, married to Beyoncé, collecting Basquiats, building Tidal, and running Roc Nation Sports. He wasn't even in the same lane anymore. The beef was old news to him. He'd evolved past it. But then, a clip resurfaced that made everything crystal clear. In it, Jay Z compared himself to Michael Jordan, saying Jim was like the 8th man on the bench yelling at the MVP. The disrespect was subtle but surgical. Calm tone, killer message. Jay didn't need to rap a word. That one line shut the whole thing down.
Jim Jones, the rapper's going down. Jim Jones. Jim Jones.
That's when it finally clicked for Jim. The more he tried to keep the beef alive, the worse it made him look. What was once street competition had turned into desperation. Jay wasn't his rival anymore. He was a mirror showing Jim how far apart their worlds had become. From that moment on, even fans started saying it out loud. This beef is one-sided now. Jim kept trying to bring back a war that Jay had already outgrown. And 50 Cent. He caught that too, and made sure the world didn't forget who really lost that battle. So what did Jim Jones do next? Exactly what 50 Cent is clowning him for right now. He switched up. After more than 13 years of taking shots at Jay Z, calling him corporate and soft, Jim did a complete 180. Suddenly, the man who spent a decade dissing Harv was now begging for a seat at the table, and in February 2017, Jay finally let him in. Jim Jones officially signed with Roc Nation.
Jim Jones, man. Hip-hop, of course, you know, is a competitive sport, but on the other end of it, it's like certain people shouldn't be able to say your names until they done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like, Jim Jones, who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's like no one's top 10 list, maybe not even his family. I was saying last night, it's like the 8th guy on the bench just screaming at Jordan, like, you a bum. Like, you want to be like the 9th guy on the bench. I'm not even worried about
It does, but instead of keeping it quiet and professional, Jim went full celebration mode. He started posting like it was Redemption Day, bragging about being invited to Jay Z's Roc Nation brunch, the very same event he used to mock and clown as industry behavior. Now he was front and center, posing for photos and talking about how honored he felt to be in the building. That's exactly what 50 Cent is dragging him for now, because to 50, Jim went from enemy to fanboy overnight, without ever owning up to the years of disrespect. No apology, no accountability, just a quick rebrand. This is where it all comes full circle. The same Jim Jones who once called Jay Z soft, who accused him of abandoning the streets, and even put hands on one of Jay's closest friends, was now out here calling Harv his role model.
Sis turned collaborator Fat Joe signed to Rockefeller, and now it looks like another former rival will be relying on Hov's team to steer his career, as Dipset's Jim Jones is allegedly heading over to Roc Nation. Capo posted a picture of bottles of Douce and Ace of Spades next to a Roc Nation letterhead on IG and told fans to...
And like always, Jay didn't say a single word. No welcome post, no brotherhood caption, no press statement celebrating the deal, just one single photo of Jay and Jim at the signing. And even in that shot, Jay's body language said everything. He wasn't smiling big, he wasn't hyped, he looked distant, almost like he'd rather be anywhere else. Jim may have finally gotten his wish to sit at the table, but Jay made sure the world knew they were not equals and never would be. It wasn't a friendship, it was business. Jay didn't forget the history, he just moved past it. And now, years later, 50 Cent's dragging the whole situation back up, using it as the ultimate example of what happens when you burn bridges you later have to crawl across. Jim called it growth, but 50 called it begging with style. In the end, Jim Jones was just another name on the Roc Nation roster. Nothing more, nothing less. And here's the irony that 50 Cent couldn't help but point out. From 2002 to 2017, Jim built his entire identity by pushing against Jay Z. He spent years branding Dipset as the anti-Roc Nation. Loud, rebellious, street certified, raw. He wore that I'm not Jay Z energy like a badge of honor. But when the money called, that badge got dropped real quick. The image Jim had spent over a decade building, the Harlem hustler who didn't bow to the system, crumbled the moment he needed a deal. He folded, tucked the ego away, and signed on the dotted line. And here's the real power move. Jay Z didn't have to say a single word, no diss track, no shade, no subliminals. He just waited. When Jim finally came knocking, Jay let him in, handed him the pen, watched him sign the contract, and then went right back to business without another word. That's not just silence, that's dominance. The kind that cuts deeper than any diss could. Because in that moment, Jim Jones wasn't Jay's rival anymore. He was proof that the hustle always outlasts the hype. And that's exactly 50 Cent's point. Jim spent years disrespecting Jay, trying to paint himself as the street alternative, the anti-establishment voice. But in the end, he did the one thing he swore he'd never do: beg for a seat at the same table he used to flame. If Jim had just stayed quiet, maybe this would have stayed buried, another forgotten feud in hip-hop history. But the second he opened his mouth and said he was better than Nas, everything changed. That one sentence woke up a different beast, 50 Cent. Because now 50 had all the ammo he needed to pull receipts, and the internet was right there watching him do it. Jim's entire past, the flip-flopping, the fake loyalty, the clout chasing, all of it got dragged right back into the spotlight. And now, the big question everyone's asking, can Jim bounce back from all this? Or did he just write his final chapter in the game? Either way, one thing's certain, 50's not done talking. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you on the next one.